Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. So we are streaming now. Okay, then we'll chat. All right. Today we're going to chant one of the songs or prayers from the morning program every morning. It's actually one of my favorite prayers in the morning. They're all my favorite. I usually say that. It's the Tulsi prayer. All right. Let's see, ready to go. namo namah. Yani gani shapapani Brahmachari Kanicha Dani Dani Pranashanti Radaksina Pare Pate Yanikan Japapani Brahmachari Kancha Dani Dani Pranashanti Radaksina Pare Pate Yanikani Japapani Brahmachatikan Dani Brandashanti Radaksina Pare Pate Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Jaya Tulsi Devi Jaya Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Tulsi Devi Jaya Tulsi Devi Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shanyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarni. So we will read the translation as we read every morning. O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has their wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy, you make them a resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you will also grant me a residence in the pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the coward damsels of Braja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Also the circumambulation. By the circumambulation of Srimati Tulsi Devi, all the sins that one may have committed or destroyed at every step, even the sin of killing a Brahmin. So don't kill Brahmins and don't circumambulate Tulsi Devi to get out of your heinous sin of killing a Brahmin. Okay, on that happy note, we're going to continue with our study of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and we are still on the first chapter in the Antya Kanda, which deals with the immediate aftermath of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's taking sannyas, and he's at the house of Advaitacharya, and they're all experiencing great ecstasy. So we're in the middle of this chapter, so let's continue. Let's share the screen And continue, of course, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshunam Meditam Ina Tasmai Shi Bhadave Namaha. And here we go. Okay. We are sharing the screen. And let me just put a chat window on the side I can see in case someone has some problem or something like that. Okay, yesterday we left off with text 244 in chapter 1 of the Antya lila, which reads, as they repeatedly roared out the name of Hari like lions, their maddened state increased again and again. As the Lord of Vaikuntha danced with his associates and devotees, the earth swayed under the weight of his lotus feet. The most effulgent Nityananda Prabhu danced around the Lord with great enthusiasm. Advaita danced in ecstasy and roared loudly. Everyone caught hold of whoever's feet they could. So the mutual worship ceremony. Such was the ecstasy manifested in Navadvip in those joyful pastimes of dancing and singing. After a while, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu sat on the throne of Vishnu in his own ecstasy, as all the devotees stood around him with folded began to reveal his own glories. I am Krishna, I am Rama, I am Narayan, I am Matsya, I am Kurma, I am Varaha and Vamana. I am Buddha Kalki, Hamsa, and Haladara. That, of course, is Balaram. I am Vishnigarbha. I am Hayagriva. And I am Maheshvara. I am Nilachal Chandra, this Lord Jagannath. I am Kapila, and I am Nrsimha. All visible and invisible beings are servants of my lotus feet. Long purport. Whoops. All the Vedas narrate my glories and qualities. Innumerable universes serve my lotus feet. I'm all devouring time for everyone other than the devotees. Simply by remembering me, one overcomes all difficulties. I delivered Draupadi from being dishonored, and I protected the 5 Pandavas from the house of lack. Someone made a comment. Visual is freezing. Anyway, at least you can hear. That's the main thing. I killed Vrikasura and thereby saved Lord Shiva. I delivered my servant Gajendra. I delivered Prahlad, and I protected the coward residents of Braj. I previously had the nectar churned from the ocean. I then deceived the demons and protected the demigods. I killed Kamsa, who was inimical to my devotees. I annihilated the wicked Ravan, along with his dynasty. I lifted Govardhan Hill with my left hand, and I chastised the serpent Kaliya. I taught the process of austerity in Satya Yuga. I incarnated to teach the process of sacrifice in Treta Yuga. I incarnated in Dwapara Yuga to teach everyone the process of deity worship. Even the Vedas do not know how many incarnations I have taken. I have now invented to inaugurate the process of chanting the holy names. I relish devotional service and ecstatic love by inaugurating the Sankirtan movement. Therefore, I have appeared in the age of Kali. And of course, there's some verses in the Bhagavatam that corroborate this. All the Vedas and Puranas teach everyone to take shelter of me. I always reside in the company of my devotees. There was no one more dear to me than my devotees. They are my father, mother, friend, son, and brother. Although I am fully independent and my activities are also independent, it is my nature to be controlled by my devotees. Of course, that's one of the qualities of pure devotional service listed by Srila Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is the only means for attracting or controlling Krishna. All of you associate with me. Birth after birth, I incarnated in this world for your sake. Know for certain that I do not leave you to stay elsewhere for even a moment. In this way, the Lord mercifully narrated these confidential topics. After the devotees heard him speak, they began to cry loudly. As they repeatedly offered obeisances to the Lord, they humbly recited prayers and cried. The house of Advaita became filled with the ecstasy that was previously relished in the town of Nadia. The devotees became fully satisfied, and their previous distress was mitigated. So remember, this is in Shantipur, which is where Advaitacharya was. And the reason Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't go back to Navadvip is that a sannyasi is forbidden to go back to his village after he takes sannyas. The Lord knows how to remove the distress of his devotees, so how can a distressed living entity not worship such a Lord? Lord Gaurachandra is an ocean of mercy. He does not see anyone's faults, but sees only their good qualities. After a while, the Almighty Lord concealed his opulences. He then regained external consciousness and became peaceful. Thereafter, the Lord went with the devotees to take bath in the Ganges, where they engaged in various water sports. After taking bath, the Lord returned with the devotees. He then circumambulated and watered the tulasi plant. After circumambulating the temple of Vishnu and offering obeisances to the Lord, Gaurahari sat down to eat lunch with the devotees. The Lord sat down in the middle with Nityananda, and the devotees happily sat around them. The entire body of the Lord was decorated with sandalwood paste, and his face was fully blossomed. The Lord then began to eat in the midst of the devotees. It appeared as though Krishna and Balaram were joyfully taking lunch in Vrindavan in the midst of their coward boyfriends. The Lord smiled as he described those pastimes to everyone while taking lunch. Who has the power to describe these pastimes? Only one who is favored by the Lord can do so. As soon as the Lord got up after finishing his meal, all the devotees eagerly took his remnants. Even respectable elderly persons acted like children. This is the potency of devotional service to Vishnu. Any pious person who hears these topics certainly achieves Lord Gaurachandra. In this way, the devotees again met with the Lord, again and again performed Sankirtan with great pomp. One who hears about how the Lord took his meal with all the Vaishnavas attains the wealth of love of God. Accepting Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends this English translation of the Gaudiya Bhasha of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Khanda, Chapter 1, entitled Meeting Again at the House of Advaitacharya. So that ends Chapter 1. Now we'll go on to Chapter 2. Description of the Lord's travel through Bhuvaneshwara and other places to Jagannath Puri. So now he's on his way to Jagannath Puri. So let's just skip through the chapter summary and go to the first verse. All glories to Gaurachandra. All glories to the life and soul of all. All glories to you, the personification of fear for the miscreants. All glories to the deliverer of the devotees. All glories to the Lord of Ananta Shesh, Lakshmi, Brahma, and Shiva. All glories to the best of the sannyasis, who is an ocean of mercy and the friend of the poor. All glories to Gauranga along with his devotees. O Lord, please be merciful to me so that my mind may remain fixed on you. In this way, Sri Gaura Sundara performed unlimited pastimes at the house of Advaita in Shantipur. The Lord happily passed the entire night with the devotees discussing various confidential topics about Krishna. At the end of the night, the Lord performed his daily morning duties and sat down in the midst of his servants. The Lord said, I will go to Nilachal. That's Jagannath Puri, of course. Do not feel unhappy. After seeing the Lord of Nilachal, I will return and meet you all again. All of you go home and joyfully engage in kirtan, birth after birth. You are my very life. The devotee said, O Lord, do as you wish. Who has the power to make you do otherwise? Still, traveling nowadays is dangerous. Therefore, no one goes to that kingdom now. And, it's described in the purport, the Mohammedan kings of Bengal made a huge arrangement to attack the kingdom of Orissa. Travelers from Bengal to Nilachal became greatly apprehensive, and the Mohammedan king of Bengal had for a long time instigated his subordinates to attack Orissa. What to speak of this? Shortly thereafter, the king even planned to personally lead an attack to destroy Orissa with Sanatana Goswami at his side. The same year that Sri Gaurasundar returned from Kanai Natsal on its way to Vrindavan, the devotees had warned him of the dangers of traveling to Vrindavana. There is a great animosity between the two kingdoms. That is the kingdom of Orissa and the Muslim kingdom of Bengal. Of course, they were overlapping at that particular time. And many rogues are creating havoc at various places, also dacoits. If you like, wait here until such disturbances subside. The Lord said, I've decided I must go regardless of any disturbances. Advaita understood the Lord's intention. He would not be stopped from going to Nilachal. He folded his hands and spoke the following truth. Who can obstruct your path? All obstacles are your servants. Therefore, who has the power to place obstacles before you? Since you have decided to go to Nilachal, you should go in great happiness. On hearing Advaita's words, the Lord became pleased. He began to chant the name of Hari in great satisfaction. At that moment, Mahaprabhu departed for Nilachal, walking like a maddened lion. The devotees all ran behind him. None of them could control their crying. After walking some distance, Sri Gaurasundara solaced everyone with sweet words. Do not be unhappy at heart, for I will never leave you under any circumstance. Chant the name of Krishna while sitting at home. I will return within a few days. After speaking these words, Mahaprabhu embraced every one of the Vaishnavas. All the devotees became soaked with the Lord's tears, and they began to cry. After solacing everyone in this way, the Lord proceeded towards the south. The devotees shed tears in ecstatic love, and they repeatedly fell to the ground and got up. As the gopis merged in an ocean of great lamentation when Krishna left for Mathura, the devotees felt similar feelings of separation and somehow survived in the same way. By providence, he was the same Lord. They were the same devotees. The situation was the same, and their feelings were the same. In other words, what that means is that these particular devotees are eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and these particular devotees were there in Vrindavan when Sri Krishna left from Mathura with Akrura. So they're actually getting into the same mood. Life and death depends on the will of Krishna. Drinking poison or nectar does nothing on its own. No one can imitate how Krishna Chandra saves someone and kills someone else. In this way, Sri Gaurasundara departed for Nilachal in his own joyful mood. The Lord was accompanied by Nityananda, Gadadhar, Mukunda, Govinda, Jagadananda, and Brahmananda. On the way, the Lord tested everyone by asking, what assets do you have with you? All of you tell me frankly whether anyone has given anything to you for the journey. They replied, O Lord, who has the power to bring anything without your permission? On hearing their reply, the Lord was greatly satisfied. Thereafter, he explained some truths regarding this topic. The Lord said, I am greatly satisfied that none of you took anything from anyone. So why is he talking like that? Because it indicates a sannyasi's mood. A sannyasi's mood is absolute dependence on Krishna. Krishna is always protecting one. Krishna is always maintaining one. And we actually see this in Srila Prabhupada's preaching when he first came to America. Basically, he had no assets. I mean, you could say a few rupees, but nothing tangible. And he was completely dependent on Krishna. Abhaya Charanana Venda. Abhaya Sattva Samsudhi. Jnana Yoga Vavastiti. If you are destined to receive some eatables, you will certainly obtain them, even if you are in the forest. If the Supreme Lord does not set aside food for a person, he will not eat, even if he is the son of a king. Without the Lord's sanction, one may not be able to eat, even if there is food, for he may suddenly quarrel with someone, or have indigestion. In an angry mood, he may say, "I will not eat today." He may even touch his hand to his head and swear to that effect. Otherwise, one may have all varieties of eatables, but he may suddenly be afflicted by fever. How can he eat while suffering the pain of fever? Therefore, the will of the Supreme Lord prevails. Krishna has supplied food for the three worlds. If he desires, one will certainly obtain it. In this way, the Lord personally taught everyone. One who has faith in his words obtains happiness. A person may endeavor for something millions of different ways, but the result will come only if the Supreme Lord sanctions it. As the Lord revealed the truth in this way, they came to the village of Atisara. In that village of Atisara lived one most fortunate saintly person named Sri Ananta. The Lord came and stayed at his house. Who can describe the limit of his good fortune? Ananta Pandit was greatly magnanimous. He became so blissful that he had no external consciousness. The Lord of Vaikuntha became his guest. He therefore happily began to arrange the Lord's lunch. The Lord and his associates took their meal at his house. The Lord then arranged to show how one should feed a sannyasi. Interesting. The Lord happily passed the entire night discussing topics of Krishna in the house of Ananta Pandit. So in other words, one should feed a sannyasi, not with opulent food, but with very simple food. In the morning, the Lord glanced mercifully on Ananta Pandit and chanted the name of Hari as he departed. On seeing the Lord's moon-like face, which destroys all miseries, everyone repeatedly chanted, Hari Bol! The same Lord, whose lotus feet are rarely seen in the hearts of the topmost yogis, was now walking before the vision of all. In this way, the Lord walked along the bank of the Ganges until he happily arrived at Chatrabhoga. In Chatrabhoga, the Ganges flows in 100 streams, thereby making everyone happy. At this place, there is a spot known to everyone as Ambulinga Ghat, where there is a Shiva Linga made of water. That's interesting. It's made of water. In other words, okay, I got it. It's flowing in such a way that the water makes the shape of the Shiva Linga. Hearing attentively the following narration of how Ambulinga Shiva appeared there. Whoops. Previously, Bhagirath worshipped the Ganges and brought her to this world to deliver his forefathers. Shiva became overwhelmed in separation from the Ganges. While remembering the Ganges, he eventually came to this place. When Shiva saw the Ganges at Chatrabhoga, he became overwhelmed with attachment for the Ganges. As soon as he saw the Ganges, he entered the water. He then took the form of water and merged in the Ganges. When Jahnavi, the mother of the universe, saw Shiva, she worshipped him with great devotion. Shiva knew the glories of worshipping the Ganges, and the Ganga also knew the glories of worshipping Shiva. When Shiva came in touch with the water of the Ganges, he transformed into water, and Ganga also humbly worshipped him. Shiva remained at that place in the form of water, so everyone glorified this place as Ambulinga Ghat. By the influence of the Ganges and Lord Shiva, this village of Chatrabhoga became most glorious and celebrated as a great tirtha. This place became even more glorious after Sri Chaitanya Chandra visited and enjoyed pastimes here. The Lord went to Ambulinga Ghat at Chatrabhoga and saw the Ganges flowing in 100 streams there. On seeing the Ganges there, The Lord became overwhelmed with ecstasy and roared loudly while chanting the name of Hari. As the Lord forcefully fell to the ground, Nityananda caught hold of him, and all the devotees chanted, Jaya, Hari, Hari. In great ecstasy, the Lord happily took bath at that ghat with his associates. While taking bath, the Lord enacted many pastimes that will be described in the Puranas by Vedavyasa. After completing his bath, Mahaprabhu came out of the water, but as soon as he put on dry clothes, they became soaked with his tears of love. 100 streams of the Ganges were flowing on the earth, and another 100 streams were flowing from the Lord's eyes. The devotees laughed when they saw this wonderful pastime. Such was the crying of Gaurachandra Mahaprabhu. The administrator of that village was Ramchandra Khan. Although he was a sense enjoyer, he was greatly fortunate. Otherwise, how could he see the Lord? By the arrangement of Providence, he met the Lord there. When he saw the Lord's effulgence, he became filled with awe and immediately got down from his palanquin. He fell flat at the lotus feet of the Lord. But the Lord had no external consciousness as he shed tears of ecstatic love. The Lord fell to the ground and cried profusely while repeatedly exclaiming, O Jagannath! When Ramchandra Khan saw the Lord was in such distress, his gentle heart was shattered. He began to cry as he thought, there is no way to check such grief. Anyone within the 3 worlds who after seeing such crying does not become agitated must have a heart of stone or wood. After becoming somewhat pacified, the crest jewel of Vaikuntha asked Ramchandra Khan, Who are you? Folding his hands with awe and reverence, Ramchandra replied, O Lord, I am the servant of your servant. Then other persons there informed the Lord, He is the administrator of the southern province. The Lord said, It is good that you are the administrator. Tell me how I can quickly reach Nilachal. As the Lord spoke, tears of love flowed from his eyes. He then fell to the ground, exclaiming, O Nilachal Chandra, that means, O Jagannath. Ramchandra Khan replied, Listen, Mahashaya, it is certainly my duty to do whatever you order. But Lord, the situation is very tense right now. There is no travel between the 2 states. The king's men have booby-trapped the road with sharp spears. If they happen to find a traveler, they accuse him of being a spy and execute him. Sounds dangerous. O Lord, listen carefully. I am apprehensive about which way I can send you in secret. I am the army commander and I oversee this area. If I am caught helping you, I will be in trouble. Still, O Lord, I will somehow or other certainly fulfill your request. If you accept me as your servant, then you and your associates will kindly take meal with me today. I am prepared to lose my caste, life, and wealth, but I will certainly help you cross the border tonight. On hearing his words, the Lord of Vaikuntha smiled and glanced mercifully on him. After Gaurahari freed him from all material bondage by his merciful glance, the Lord went to stay in that Brahmin's house. Thus that Brahmin's house became sanctified as he directly perceived the fruits of his past pious activities or deeds. The Brahmin's heart filled with devotion as he began to cook for the Lord with great care. The Lord ate only as a matter of formality, for he was so absorbed in his own ecstatic mood that he could not be diverted even for a moment. The Lord ate only for the satisfaction of his beloved devotees. The Lord's food always consisted of only spiritual foodstuffs, prasadam. In particular, on his journey to Jagannath Puri, the Lord ate only out of formality. For the entire journey, the Lord anxiously prayed to Jagannath and forgot himself. The Lord was completely oblivious to everything as he drowned in the mellows of ecstatic love. He did not know whether it was day or night, or whether he had crossed a river or walked through water or over land. Who other than Vedavyasa can describe the ecstasy that Mahaprabhu manifested? Who can understand the Supreme Lord's characteristics? And who can understand when or how Krishna performs his pastimes? Only Nityananda has the power to understand why the Lord lamented and cried. As the Lord of Vaikuntha drowned in the mellows of his own devotional service, he enacted the pastime of forgetting himself. The Lord meditated on his own form as Jagannath and exhibited lamentation to teach others. If the Lord did not glance mercifully on the living entities, who would have the power to know him? The Lord then sat down to eat with his dear associates, headed by Nityananda. After taking a morsel of rice, Gaurahari stood up and roared loudly. The Lord became overwhelmed as he washed his hands and mouth and repeatedly asked, "How far is Jagannath Puri?" As soon as Mukunda began to perform kirtan, the Lord of Vaikuntha began to dance. All the pious persons of Chaturboga watched as the Lord who enjoys pastimes in Vaikuntha danced. Danced. Who can understand the mystery of the Lord's display of transformations of ecstatic love, like crying, shivering, roaring, hair standing on end, becoming stunned and perspiring? The wonderful stream of tears that flowed from his eyes resembled the descent of the Ganges in the month of Bhadra, that is, during the monsoon season. Everyone there was bathed by the tears emanating from the Lord's eyes as he whirled about dancing. That is why he is described as the incarnation of the love of God. No one other than Chaitanya Chandra has such power. After 9 hours of the night passed in this way, Sri Gaurasundara became pacified. Everyone there thought that hardly a moment had passed. They were all delivered by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. At that time, Ramchandra Khan came and said, "O Lord, the boat has arrived at the ghat." Sri Gaurasundara immediately chanted the name of Hari and went to sit in the boat. The Lord cast his auspicious glance on everyone and sent them home. Then he departed for his own abode of Nilachal. By the order of the Lord, Sri Mukunda Mahasaya began to perform kirtan as the Lord boarded the boat. The foolish boatman said, "I'm in doubt. I think we will not survive the day. If we reach the shore, the tigers will attack us, and if we fall in the water, the crocodiles will eat us. Rogues constantly move about these waters. If they catch anyone, they take both his wealth and life. Therefore, O Goswamis, until we reach Orissa, please remain silent." In other words, they're having a kirtan, and he was getting very worried because people could hear, or the animals could also hear the kirtan. When they heard the boatman's words, they became somewhat hesitant. The Lord, however, continually floated in the waters of ecstatic love. After a while, the Lord stood up and roared loudly. He said to everyone, "Why are you afraid? Can't you see the Sudarshan chakra escorting us? It always removes the obstacles faced by Vaishnavas. Do not worry. Chant the glories of Krishna. Don't you see Sudarshana guarding us?" On hearing the Lord's words, all the devotees joyfully began to perform kirtan. Mahaprabhu used this situation to teach everyone. Sudarshana always protects the devotees. Any sinful person who attacks a Vaishnava is burnt to ashes by the fire of Sudarshan. When devotees have a protector like Vishnu's Sudarshan chakra, who has the power to attack them? Only a person who is favored by Sri Gaurachandra can actually understand his confidential topics. In this way, Mahaprabhu was merged in the mellows of Sankirtan as he entered the kingdom of Orissa. When the boat arrived at Sri Prayag Ghat, Mahaprabhu stepped onto the shore. Anyone who hears about Gaurachandra's arrival in Orissa floats in the mellows of ecstatic love. After joyfully arriving in Orissa, the Lord and his associates offered obeisances. There, at the place known as Ganga Ghat, Lord Gaurachandra took his bath. After taking bath, the Lord offered obeisances to the deity of Mahisha that was established there by Yudhishthira. Gaurachandra and his associates were most happy to have entered Orissa. The Lord then left his associates in one temple and went out to beg alms. In whoever's house the Lord went to beg at, the people there became bewildered on seeing his form. As Sri Gaurasundara held out his cloth for alms, everyone immediately placed rice in it. They happily offered the Lord whatever fine eatables they had in their house. The same Lord whose lotus feet are desired by Lakshmi, who is known as Annapurna, the supplier of food to the entire universe, personally delivered the living entities on the pretext of begging alms from door to door as a sannyasi. After begging alms, the Lord became joyful. He then returned to where the devotees were waiting. When the devotees saw the foodstuffs that the Lord collected as alms, they began to laugh and said, "O Lord, you will be able to maintain us." Jagadananda cooked with great satisfaction, and the Lord then ate in the company of the devotees. Mahaprabhu and the devotees performed Sankirtan the entire night in that village, and then departed early the next morning. After they had traveled some distance, a sinful toll collector stopped them and would not allow them to go further without paying taxes. Struck with wonder on seeing the Lord's effulgence, he asked, "How many people are with you?" The Lord replied, "I have no one in this world, and I do not belong to anyone. I tell you this fact. I am alone with no companion. The entire world is mine." As the Lord spoke, incessant tears flowed from his eyes. The toll collector said, "O Goswami, you may go. I will let these persons go after they pay taxes." The Lord walked down the road chanting Govinda. He left the others behind and sat down in the distance. When the Lord left everyone and continued on, the devotees became despondent in their happiness, or in their unhappiness. Anyway, on seeing the Lord's pastime of complete detachment, they all began to laugh among themselves. Yet they were unhappy because they feared that the Lord might leave them all and go. Nityananda, however, solaced them. "Do not worry, the Lord will not go anywhere without us." The toll collector said, "You are not with the sannyasi, so you should pay the proper fees." After leaving his associates behind, the Lord sat down in the distance and began to cry with his head between his knees. Even wood and stone would melt on hearing such crying. When the toll collector saw that wonderful sight, he began to consider. The toll collector thought, "This person is certainly not an ordinary human being. Can a human being shed such tears?" The toll collector then respectfully asked the devotees, "Who are you? Who is your leader? Tell me the truth." They all replied, "He is the Lord of all. You must have heard his name, Sri Krishna Chaitanya. We are all his servants." Tears flowed from their eyes as they spoke these words. The toll collector became astonished on seeing their ecstatic love, and tears flowed from his eyes. He hurriedly went and fell at the Lord's lotus feet, offered obeisances, and spoke with humility. "Seeing you is the fulfillment of whatever piety I have accumulated in millions of lifetimes. O ocean of mercy, please forgive my offenses. Go quickly to Nilachal and see your Lord." After casting his merciful glance on the toll collector, the Lord of all living entities chanted the name of Hari and departed. Gaurasundara will deliver everyone except the sinful, ill-behaved offenders of Vaishnavas. Even demons were transformed by hearing the qualities and names of Lord Chaitanya. Only the most sinful miscreants do not accept him. This the Lord glanced mercifully on everyone as he continued on his way to Nilachal. In his own ecstatic love, the Lord did not know which way to go. Day and night he was overwhelmed from drinking the mellows of ecstatic love. While traveling in this way, Mahaprabhu arrived in a few days at the Suvarnareka river. The Lord and the Vaishnavas took their bath there in the most pure waters of the Suvarnareka river. Sri Gaurasundara, who is Lord Hari in the form of a human, made the Suvarnareka glorious by taking bath in her waters and then continued on his journey. Nityananda in the company of Sri Jagadananda fell far behind. Gaurachandra went some distance ahead and then sat down to wait for Nityananda Swarup. Lord Nityananda was always restless and intoxicated from being absorbed in thoughts of Lord Chaitanya. Sometimes he roared loudly, and sometimes he cried. Sometimes he laughed loudly, and sometimes he made thundering sounds. Sometimes he would swim in the middle of the river, and sometimes he would smear dust all over his body. Sometimes in ecstatic love he would fall so forcibly to the ground that everyone would think his limbs were broken. Sometimes he danced on his own, and the earth would then sway back and forth. All such pastimes are not so astonishing for him, for he was Lord Ananta appearing in this world. All these pastimes were possible by Nityananda's mercy, for Gaurasundara, or Gaurachandra, constantly resides in his heart. While Nityananda Prabhu waited at one place, Jagadananda went out to beg alms. Sri Jagadananda generally carried the Lord's danda. He handed that danda to Nityananda Swarup and said, "Please take care of the Lord's danda. I will return in a few minutes after begging alms." With an agitated heart, Nityananda grabbed the danda and sat down there. Holding the danda in his hand, Lord Nityananda laughed. As his pastime, he then spoke to the danda. O danda, it is not proper that he whom I carry within my heart should carry you. After speaking in this way, the most powerful Balaram broke the danda into 3 pieces. So, in other words, turned it into a tree danda, which is explained in the purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we explained that yesterday. Tree danda means mind, body, and words in the service, and the soul in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, as we explained yesterday, the tree danda actually has 4 sticks, even though it's called the tree danda. And the 4th stick is very, very small. It's like a curved crescent moon. And that indicates the soul engaged in the service of the Lord in terms of his body, mind, and words. Only the Supreme Lord knows the will of the Supreme Lord. How will I know why he broke the danda? Nityananda knows the mind of Gaurachandra, and Sri Gaurasundara knows the mind of Nityananda. In every yuga they appear as 2 brothers, such as Sri Ram and Lakshman. They always know each other's mind. The one Lord has become 2 to teach devotional service. One can know Gaurachandra only through Nityananda. Who other than Balaram is powerful enough to break Lord Chaitanya's danda? Sri Gaurasundara taught everyone by this pretext. Anyone who understands this truth is easily delivered. After breaking the danda, Nityananda sat there. Shortly thereafter, Jagannatha returned. He was greatly astonished on seeing the broken danda, and he felt apprehensive at heart. He asked, who broke the danda? Nityananda replied, he who held it. The Lord broke his own danda. Who else is capable of breaking it? When that Brahmana heard this reply, he did not say anything. He quickly took the broken danda and left. He went to the place where Sri Gaurasundara was sitting and placed the broken danda before the Lord. The Lord said, tell me how this danda was broken. Did you have a fight with someone on the way? Jagannatha Pandit narrated the entire incident to the Lord and said, the overwhelmed Nityananda broke the danda. The Lord then asked Nityananda, tell me why you broke my danda. Nityananda replied, I broke only a piece of bamboo. If you cannot forgive me, then punish me appropriately. The Lord said, all the demigods reside in the danda, and you call it a piece of bamboo? Who can understand the pastimes of Sri Gaurasundara? He thinks one thing and says something else. In other words, he wanted the danda to be broken. Therefore, know for certain that anyone who says, I understand Krishna's mind, is a fool. He may show great affection even to a person he intends to kill. Yet he may neglect devotees whom he considers equal to or greater than his own life. Such pastimes are inconceivable and unfathomable. Only one who is favored by the Lord can understand them. Out of his own sweet will, Gaura Hari broke the tree danda and then expressed anger. The Lord said, this danda was my only companion. From today, by Krishna's will, it was broken. Now I do not require anyone's company. Either you go ahead or I will go ahead. So this is all we have time for today. Now we'll take questions. So in other words, this gave an excuse for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to proceed ahead of all the devotees and enact his pastime of fainting in the temple of Lord Jagannath. So now if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand and I will call on you. And then I'll tell you to unmute yourself. Does anyone have any questions about these pastimes today? Raise your hand. The way you raise your hand, you go to the little heart in the bottom that says react and hit it and raise your hand. Gopal, okay, so I'll call on you first since you're the only one.
And this chapter talks about the sinful toll collector.
Yeah.
And then the toll collector, then upon observing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and the devotees, at first he committed offenses and he was referred to as sinful, but then he surrendered to Krishna. He surrendered to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya blessed him with love of God. So it seems from this pastime that even a sinful person, if they make the determination to change their sinful mentality and sinful nature, they can still be rescued. Is that
Yes.
accurate?
Well, Dina Hina Yata Chulo Harinam Udurila. If one takes up the chanting of Harinam, then it doesn't matter whether one is fallen, whether it's elevated. I mean, Tara Shaksai Jagai Madai. What to speak of Jagai Madai? What to speak of ourselves? I mean, what was our situation, at least I think many of us, before we took up Krishna consciousness? So,
Thank you,
okay.
Gurudev.
Okay, so here's the question in the chat window. Please accept my humble obeisances. In text 252 it states, I'm Buddha. Could you kindly elaborate on this? Because Buddha is one of the incarnations, one of the Dasha avatars. Keshavadrita Buddha Sharira Jaya Jagadish Hare. And Buddha appeared to preach himsa paradharma, which means nonviolence is the topmost dharma. And he taught void. No, he didn't really teach voidism, sorry. But he rejected the Vedas and taught sort of like a psychological path. His followers later on taught voidism. But he rejected the Vedas because, why did he reject the Vedas? Because people were using the Vedas to justify meat eating and exploitation of others in the name of Brahminical culture. Okay. All right. All right. So it's an appreciation from Ajay Krishna, which is 3:30 a.m. in India. He's watching in India. Okay, so who else has a question? You can type in the text window, or you can raise your hand, and I will call on you to unmute yourself. Now is your opportunity to ask a question. All right. If someone doesn't want to ask a question, we can end a little early, but this is uh, an opportunity for exchange. All right. So, anyway, so tomorrow we're going to be giving the Sunday, as they say, the Sunday feast or Sunday program. Oh, Rajalila. Okay, you have a question. Ask your question.
In one part, please have my basics. In one part, it says that Chaitanya is Krishna as a human form, or
Yeah,
in a human form. But isn't Krishna in a human form already? I thought it was interesting that they described it that way.
yeah. I mean, Krishna in his original form, his original aspect is human-like. I mean, to be more precise, philosophically, it's a human-like form because obviously Krishna's not human in the same way that we are. We are actually made in the image of God. So we have a Krishna-like form. That's even a better way
But
to
isn't
say it.
that the same as Lord Chaitanya? He's also not really human.
No, he's not human, but the form is the form of a human, but his body is not a human body.
Hmm.
Just like, all right, just let's use a really mundane example. Let's say I sculpt, which I could never do because I'm not a sculptor. Let's say if we sculpt or sculpt a form of a famous person or Prabhupada. So we say that is the form of Prabhupada, but it's not Prabhupada. So something that's a
Hmm.
replica or looks like, we can say it's a human form.
Oh,
Does that
okay.
make does that make
He's
sense? So,
trying to look like a human as
well,
Lord
he's not.
Chaitanya.
Krishna's not trying to look. He does look like a
Yeah.
human, but it's a human. The form is like the same as that of a human being, but the body is not. The constituent elements of the body, which are Satchitananda in Krishna's case, not the same as a human being in this world.
Oh, is it that Krishna is he just is who he is, and then Lord Chaitanya is trying to he is a human, he's trying to look like a human.
No, no, no. Lord Chaitanya is not a human. He is
Yeah.
the supreme personality of Godhead, but he has a human form. A human form doesn't mean a human body. There's a difference. It's a question of the nomenclature.
Mm,
A statue can also have a human form, but a
yeah.
statue is not a human. Does that explain that?
That makes sense. I think it was just interesting. It was an interesting, I don't know why they're making it seem like it's different for Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, it's like he is Krishna as a human when
Oh, I understand. I
Krishna
understand.
is also,
Yeah, but Lord Chaitanya definitely didn't do all the like amazing things that Krishna did,
mm,
such as lifting Govardhan Hill. Yeah, it was more human-like pastimes than I would say Krishna's pastimes.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, much more human-like. I mean, of course, he did miracles too. He cured leprosy. He saved his associate Krishnadas, who was taken by the Bhattaharis, by having the Bhattahari swords. There were all sorts of miracles, but not to the same extent. The external miracles, well, the external real miracle is saving everybody, but not to the same extent that Krishna did, like lifting Govardhan Hill. There's no story about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu uh, lifting Govardhan Hill.
Hmm.
So this way he was, yeah, it was much more. Oh, you can say down to earth.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Much more down to earth than Krishna. I mean, I hate to use that expression. It's Krishna anyway.
Yeah,
Well, Lord
thank you. That
Chaitanya's
makes sense.
yeah, Lord Chaitanya's miracles were not so like out there. Just like
Yeah, I mean the residents of Vrindavan were wondering if Krishna was a demigod, like he did all these things
thing.
that
Yeah,
made them question yeah, if he was even human.
yeah, and of course Lord Chaitanya did show his universal form sometimes, and whatever. But it's just like wasn't like a public display like Krishna did.
To his
Okay,
devotees.
all right. Thank you for your
Thank you.
question. Now it's time to end. We'll see everybody. Well, tomorrow we're going to have this class at in the temple. It's not going to be a Chaitanya Bhagavat class. It's going to be the Sunday program. Something interesting, hopefully, or to keep people's interest, and roughly at the same time. All glory is to His divine grace.